Why do flight attendants make you open the window screen on flights? Whenever I'm on a flight at any hour of the day, the flight attendants come by and say, "Open your window, please." What is the purpose of this? I don't want the blaring sun in my face. What kind of problem does closing the window cause? It seems to be only during takeoff and landing. They do it during takeoff and landing for safety reasons. Airliner accidents are extremely rare, and the ones that do happen are primarily during takeoff and landing. In case an emergency does happen, it's safer to have all the blinds open so you can see all around the plane. Takeoffs and landing are probably the riskiest parts of the flight. If the plane crashes, rescuers from the outside need to look inside to see what passengers need to be rescued, and can see other things like a possible fire or smoke. Also, keeping the blind open allows the passengers to adjust with the current light conditions outside. If there is a crash, they will have more visibility with their eyes adjusted, so someone can notice and report that there's something wrong with the left phalange. It's for safety reasons. In the event that the plane crashes or has to make an emergency landing, emergency services need to be able to see into the aircraft, and flight attendants need to be able to see out. It also ensures that your vision has adjusted for the lighting conditions outside the plane should you need to evacuate. They want to make sure you can see that furry guy standing on the wing of the plane messing with the engine. It's for assessing outdoor conditions in case of missed landing, takeoff, and deciding which of the plane sides or ends is safe for emergency evacuation. Basically, the crew will assess or ask an able-bodied passenger to look out the windows for smoke or fire coming out and then decide to start the evac on the opposite side. Got this from Google. It's for your own safety. If anything happens during takeoff and landing, the most risky stages of every flight, then your eyes will already be used to the dark or the light outside, and you'll be able to react more quickly. That's also the reason why the lights in the cabin are dimmed for takeoff and landing. Flight attendants probably love B787 for the electronic shades with central override, in addition to higher overhead compartment capacity. I'll add to this. In fact, some airlines ask you to close them after landing. If you ever fly Copa Airlines into Panama, they'll usually say, "Please close the window shades and open your air vents fully so that the plane is cooler inside for the next passengers." The ground guys will hook up the AC, but it works faster if the plane isn't sitting there baking in the sun with all the air vents closed. In China, many commercial airports share runways with military airports, and they make you keep them closed so they can see anything going on outside that may require an emergency. So you can make sure there's not a gremlin on the wing. The more eyes looking for the gremlin that's dismantling the plane, the better. They also want chairs upright, tables stored away, and bags pushed under seats so people can get out of their seats quickly, so they can see if there are gremlins on the wing. Where are you located? I have never had a flight attendant ask me to open the window. In fact, they often ask us to close them when it's really hot. I live in SW, Texas. For visibility outside, ensures that in an emergency situation your eyes will be adjusted to whatever the light level outside is, making it faster and easier during an evacuation. I travel for work here in the US and can honestly say I've never had an attendant asking me to open the window shade. I've been on tons of flights. Had 2 trips just last week. During the summer, they do ask people to close the shades to help keep the cabin cool, and never have asked for them to be opened up again during takeoff or landing. I usually sit in the window seat and do not like the light coming in, so I close it by default when I sit down. It remains closed the entire flight. Maybe it depends on what country you're flying in. To keep William Shatner from freaking out about something tearing apart the wing. A little more expansion on the for your safety bit. My sister is a flight attendant, and she answered as such. Flight attendants are seated during takeoff and landing. Depending on the aircraft, some of those seats are not next windows that overlook the engines. Having the blinds open will make sure that if there is anything wrong in any spot along the aircraft, the passengers are able to see it and alert a FA so they can alert the captain. So you can report if the engines catch fire or a wing falls off. I always assumed it had to do with being able to see if an engine caught fire or fell off. A pilot told me once that it's so ground crew know there is no problems on board. Particularly on landing, if the norm is for them to all be up and they're all or partially down, it means that it's likely there's a major issue on board. E.g., the cabin crew have lost control of the cabin somehow and are likely to need help from police, etc. On landing. Kind of a code to the ground crew. It would obviously differ from airline to airline and airport, but kinda makes sense. I seem to recall it was also to indicate all was well on the flight during a spate of hijacks in the 1970s. Those planes always kept blinds down, so anyone wanting to storm the plane had less information to work with. Think I read this somewhere, but I'm unable to support this, so read with caution. It's requested during takeoff and landing, because that's the most high-risk part of flight for an accident to happen, and also when an accident is most likely survivable. To maximize ability to respond and evacuate as quickly and safely as possible. Flight attendants require window shades open to see what's going on outside the plane. E.g., if one engine is on fire, exit other side of plane. They also ask for seats to be upright, tray tables stowed, etc., to also make sure paths are clear for easier exit in case of emergency. Gremlins are more active on the wings during takeoff and landings. Interesting. I've been on many flights, but if I have the window seat, I love looking out the window, so I always keep it up, so I have not ever come across this. So you can find your stuff in the overhead bin, in case you crash on takeoff. You don't want to leave your precious stuff on board if you have to get out in a hurry. They have literally never ever asked me to do this, and I only sit by windows. Whenever I'm on a flight at any hour of the day. Are you sure about that? Screens up is standard procedure for takeoffs and landings for numerous safety protocol reasons. But they don't make you do this at all other random hours of the flight. I will throw up on you if that window is not open on takeoff and landing. As others have said, if there is an emergency most likely to occur during takeoff landing, then they need the windows open to orient themselves. This is in case there is a crash, so you can see a beautiful view in the last few minutes. I don't fit that often. My window shade is always open on takeoff and landing because I like to watch. I've never been asked to open it during any flight. Edit. The shade is otherwise closed during the flight. When backing out of the gate, the cockpit doesn't have any rear-view mirrors, so as they back out, the pilot uses all the windows to see. Thus way there is no blind spots. I like to keep my window open the whole flight so I can look out. That's why I select the window seat, and my complaint is them asking me to close it during the flight so that others can sleep. That's not a safety issue, and people that want to sleep can wear eye covers, so why are they denying my view? In case of a crash on takeoff or landing, the interior lights on the craft can be seen from outside if it's dark. If it's daylight, you can see outside the aircraft. To keep an eye out for gremlins out on the wings,